You want to know the real reason that so many people are buying property in Wales? Hit like and subscribe and find out. So drum roll please. The real reason that Wales is becoming so popular to buy properties in, and I'm not just talking about investors looking for that magic 40k 20% yielding property down the valleys. I'm talking about first time buyers, home movers. The answer is Bristol, England, because house prices are so steep in Bristol now that there's like an influx of people moving across from England into Wales just because of the price of property. Average price of a house in Bristol at the moment, and what are we in, April 2022, the average price of a property in Bristol is around £333,000. So think about it, if you're on 30k salary, is that an average salary, let's say, your husband or your wife or your missus or your mister is on 30k, you're on 60 grand, times that by an average multiplier, 4.5, like a mortgage lender would do, that gives you 270 something. You'd still need a 50, 60 grand deposit to buy that house. Try wrapping your head around that. That's a lot of money to find. Whereas if you look in Newport, which is the nearest big city, well, I say big, the nearest city to Bristol in commutable distance, the average price of a property is 222,000, data according to the land registry. All of a sudden that becomes much more affordable, not just for couples, but also for people on their own. I'd say that out of 10 people I speak to on a weekly basis who were looking for mortgages, looking to buy property, then 6 of them will be Bristolians, 4 of them will be Welsh, if they're looking to buy in Newport, that is. And that's pretty crazy. There's also stories, and I mean, I say stories, they're actually anecdotal evidence, that uni students who want to be renting in University of West of England, UWE, are actually living in Newport, renting their student digs in Newport, and commuting to uni. That's mad. What sort of community? I mean, back in the day, I know I sound like Old Man River now, but back in the day, you'd all be in like the same area of Cardiff or Bristol or wherever, Swansea, and then that's where your environment would be for going out, etc. Imagine a time where now your students are having to move somewhere 20 miles away, 15, 20 miles away, just because the rent is that much cheaper. It's nuts. But there you go, that is my insight into what is driving the housing market in Wales. And I spoke to some other people today and they said, you know, is there going to be a dip in property prices? It's got to come soon. Everybody's talking about it has to come soon. When you see that sort of small environment, you know, the Newport on one side, Bristol on the other, the demand is still so high for semi-affordable properties because of those high ones in Bristol, then I don't think the property prices are going to drop in Wales at the moment. Certainly not, because people aren't going to be able to afford anywhere to live, or certainly not to buy, and even rents in Bristol being that much higher. The average house price in the UK, according to the land registry, is around about 270 odd grand. So Newport is a lot cheaper than that, 222, and then Bristol is significantly higher at 333. In fact, only Monmouthshire, which is just by an absolute whisker, slightly higher than Bristol, that's the only community, local authority in South Wales that is higher than Bristol. So if you look at things in that regard, it's almost a natural move for people to move across. When you couple this with, in 2017, the bridge toll was scrapped. So for those of you that don't know, there's a big Severn Bridge, two actually, between England and Wales. There used to be a toll to get from England back into Wales. I think it ended up around about £6.60 or £6.80. So every time you came back to Wales, you had to pay £6.60 or £6.80. Right pain. They scrapped that in 2017. That started to see prices move in Newport. I bought a house in Newport around that time actually, thankfully. And now, because of the sort of resurgence or surge in property prices in Bristol, is giving people even more reason to move across. The only sort of thing to be concerned about, I suppose, is if you're living in Wales and you want to buy in Wales, is actually the supply of housing is very, very limited. It's actually causing a lot of people who live in Wales and work in Wales to look a little bit further afield from Newport because of, you know, people from England moving in. I don't want it to sound like he said, she said, anything xenophobic or anything like that, but it's just the reality of it. People working in Bristol on higher wages, buying properties in Wales because the houses are more affordable, is causing some people in Wales to have to look further down the valley or for cheaper alternatives because the supply A isn't there, and B, property prices are starting to go up a fair bit in the more popular areas of Wales as well. So yeah, South Wales only, I'm afraid. Haven't even looked into North Wales or Mid Wales, so apologies for that. I know I get slated for only looking at places on my doorstep, but stick to what you know. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope that was a little bit of info for you that you may or may not have known. Sometimes it's the elephant in the room. You know, a lot of people look around like, why is this so expensive? Why can't I afford to buy here? Or why are so many people buying? What's happening to the supply? You know, the demand's through the roof. Why is that? This is just a little bit of evidence that I found through my experience over the last few months. Please hit like and subscribe. Support's really appreciated, and I'll catch you soon.